Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes you need directions to get to one of the most unexpectedly entertaining shows of the year. And guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean that you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals who pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I am going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. If you are, please keep listening to this audio-only experience and subscribe. Hit the old subscribe button, the like, give us a 5-star rating, and your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere, places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, the Threads, the Blue Sky. I lose track. There's too many. We're at In the Seats, though, for lots of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the movie image at large, because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it all that much more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please do us that ultimate kindness, come on by and pay us a visit. Alright, boys and girls, we got a fun one for you. It is, we're diving into the brand new show on Netflix called How to Get to Heaven from Belfast, which debuted just a couple of weeks ago. It is an absolute hoot from creator Lisa McGee, and it's the story of 3 lifelong friends who reunite after the death of an old classmate turns awake into a deep, dark mystery. They embark on a thrilling adventure across Ireland, piecing together various enigmatic truths amid complicated lives. It's dark, it's funny, it's from the people who were some of the people behind Bad Sisters. It's a fun show. If you haven't checked it out yet, fire up your Netflix and go watch How to Get to Heaven from Belfast. It is absolutely worth it. And we had the unique chance of sitting down and talking with some of the great talented people behind the scenes who make a show like this work. We talked with one of the cinematographers, Nathalie Pitters, and editor Nigel Williams, who worked on sort of the middle tranche of episodes, because there's 8 in total, so they kind of divvy it up that way. It was technically 4, 5, and 6, but I mean, it's all good. And we talked with Natalie and Nigel about just getting the job and getting on board on a team like this, and just sort of divisional labor too, right? Because, you know, it's going to be a different director, it's going to be different visions, but everyone has to follow the vision of the showrunner. It's an interesting dynamic as artists and artisans who work behind the scenes on these sort of multi-episode show arcs keep their sanity and manage to sort of keep the same artistic vision going throughout. They did a great job, and obviously it's a really fun show. Like I said, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast is on Netflix now. Check it out, but first enjoy our talk with cinematographer Nathalie Pitters and editor Nigel Williams, because it's a pretty good one. I enjoyed it, and I think you will too. Obviously, just Natalie and Nigel, just, you know, thank you so much for the time, and I mean, congrats on your work on the show. Like, I got the marathon it the past couple of days. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's good to know, because it's only just come out, as you know. So
Yeah.
we were all a bit nervous, wondering how it was going to be received, I think.
Well, it's such a fun show. I mean, it's such a fun show. And I mean, I'm kind of curious though, like for both of your perspectives, like when there's a run like this, because you guys worked on sort of the middle tranche of episodes, like 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Like, do they bring you in right away? Like, is there sort of a team to go, okay, you're doing 1 through 3, you're doing 4 through 6, and so on? Or does it sort of happen sort of as they're sort of going down the line in production?
Well, they hire us in block, so they would have hired the block 1 guys, and then while the block 1 team were in prep, that's when they then hire a block 2 director. Then the block 2 director hires block 2 DP, and then our director George would have hired Nigel. I think you guys worked together before, didn't you, Nigel?
You know what? We haven't. So my director, George, he's really well known in the UK. He's done so much UK comedy.
Yeah,
but our paths had never crossed. So there were lots of editor friends I've got who would work with George, but I never had. So I met him, went for a beer. Luckily, he liked me, and that's how I got taken on.
Great. And then when I was prepping and shooting, then I heard that they'd hired Rashna Suri to direct Block 3. And then after Rashna, then I heard that, they were interviewing a bunch of DPs, and that's when I heard they'd confirmed Dan Stafford Clark. So yeah, they know in advance that they want to split it into 3 blocks, but then it's while we're sort of in the process of one block as they sort of then prepare who's going to do the next block.
So, I
Um,
mean, is there a bridge between sort of block one and two? Because, I mean, especially with all these episodes, and particularly for you guys,
hmm,
I mean, you're in Malta, you're in Ireland, there's so much stuff going on. I mean, I can imagine it's hard to sort of maintain a through line based on whatever block one did, given how much
mhm,
the action jumps back and forth.
mm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something probably Nigel can talk a bit about as well, but so many tonal shifts throughout the show that you have to honor the tonal shift while maintaining sort of keeping the through line, as you say, from block to block. So it needs to feel like it's within the same world, but I feel like each episode can be the cousin to another episode rather than the twin brother or sister, like I don't think they I don't think it has to look identical where you could potentially think the same team did it, but it has to honor some aspect. And so from my end, um, see, because we have the same equipment, we have the same crew, so that means that I have to try to utilize some of the same tools as when Ashley in Block One did it. So, for example, you might see like an incredibly wide lens that's quite warpy. That was the 21 mm lens. So that was used a lot in Block One for like eerie moments or like who the hell is this random person moments. And we tried to use it the same way when there was something unexpected about to happen, or to sort of be a contrast, like a foil to the comedy. So the dialogue is incredibly funny, but then the camera work is incredibly creepy and eerie. So that you still have those two halves. And then similarly, Block One is a lot of colored lighting, and I did honor that throughout my episodes as well. But because my episodes are no longer about this eerie thing, and it's more about like a sort of road movie caper action
Yeah,
thriller with moments of like, oh my God, it's her, or oh my God, it's him. um I'm not sort of we're not in that creepy hotel, that they're in the
right.
Nokdara hotel. So you get to sort of meter it, and then I think from Nigel's perspective, the editing as well like plays a part in that tonal shift.
Yeah, well, I think the scripts were so tonally different anyway. Certainly for my block, because my episode one, well, episode four was the boat blowing up and the chase to Malta, which was Portugal in the
Mm-hmm.
script. But yeah, so and then episode five was the chase through Dublin, which was such good fun to edit. It was more of a caper throughout, really. And then episode six, it took a really dark turn with the reveal of Charles and his murder, if I can say that without.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. So tonally very different, but I luckily had Block One had already started editing, so I had kind of at the assembly stage, I could see what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then because George was my director, Michael Lennox was the director on Block One, who was also an exec on it. He was kind of the go-between between the two edit suites. So he'd be looking at my cuts and go, yeah, you're on the right track and we're all good. But equally, you, as Nathalie will tell you, you want to try and put your own stamp on it as well.
Yeah.
So I was putting my own music on it, kind of knowing that it was all going to get stripped out and be composed anyway. But yeah, just trying to put my own stamp on it, like Nathalie, was quite important. And I think we did it, but the scripts allowed us to do that anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely. Like I think if Block Two had been, the same kind of eeriness, like in episode one where we meet the family in that creepy house, and it's all very sort of Adam's family, and but it's supposed to be because you're supposed to not it's supposed to set up the audience's relationship to these people. So the audience should it's telling the audience don't trust these guys, or like be wary of these guys. And then once we get to mine and Nigel's episode 4, we already kind of we've seen them go through, we've seen what's happened, we've seen who these people are. And so we then take them onto the next part of their journey. So if you imagine like the Odyssey, it
Yeah.
can't all be the same. You've got to go up, down, up, down. So that's what Lisa so expertly wrote for us. She wrote this incredible script that made it very clear what each tonal shift should be and how that sort of you then interpret exactly how that should look visually. And Lisa was very often in the Video Village tent with me. So we had 2 operators. So I was at monitor in a little tent with my gaffer, and then Lisa would be behind me, and then Brian, our producer, would be behind me. So there was always that sort of second pair of eyes to double check, like, is this still in line with the show as a whole? And the general consensus was yes.
No, I love that. And I mean, that's the thing that I think really stood out for me because, I mean, when it's in procedural mode, it's visually and editing wise, it's in procedural mode. When it's in an action movie mode, it's in action movie mode and it matches that. When it's in comedic mode, it's rapid fire and it's loose and it's funny. For both of you, how important is it to sort of, I guess, have faith in the material? Because obviously you're coming at it from 2 different sides of the job. And I can imagine, uh, Natalie, for you, it's probably more about the script than maybe it is for you, Nigel, as opposed to sort of having to work with what you've got in front of you.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I was quite fortunate with George. I mean, as Nigel said, George he shoots so much in the UK. He's quite well known. So, and I think George came from an editing background prior to being a director. So he really knew exactly what he wanted. You have some directors you work with that they want to shoot a little bit of everything. Maybe, cover, if you were running a line through the script, every shot is basically lining through the entire scene.
Yeah.
And then the poor editor then has to deal with that. George knew exactly how he was going to cut, and so it'd even be sometimes we'd be on set, and I'd say, "Hey, I just thought maybe what if we do this?" And he'd say, "I really like that idea, but I don't think it'll cut really well in this scene." And I think his sort of editing nous in that sense, I'm sure was really helpful to Nigel, but it was also really helpful for us because we have a super tight schedule. We can't really afford to be shooting loads of just in cases. You've got the
Right.
occasional just in case that we indulge because we think, oh, that might be really atmospheric and that might be really beautiful. But like there was a whole scene in the airport, that got completely cut. So in episode 4, the car blows up. And where Booker and Greta are driving to is the airport to then fly to Portugal. And the girls are also arriving at that same airport. And what happened in that cut scene is that Greta sees the 3 girls and goes, "Oh my God, those are my friends. They're following me. Like they somehow know I'm here." And then Booker sort of spirits her away. And they end up on separate flights. And then it's the arrival into Portugal. And that got cut because, I mean, Nigel can probably illustrate more about that, but it didn't serve the story or didn't move and even though it's well written and well performed, do we need it ultimately? Is it redundant? Is it saying the same thing twice? Like, is it a hat on a hat on a hat? So I mean, that's from my end, is like it's great having a director who has a vision and knows exactly what they want.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, so I get to assemble the day after Natalie is shot, so I'm literally hot off the press, and I'm putting my interpretation on what I think George and Natalie wanted. But sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you get it wrong. But George will say, "Oh, that's really good. I hadn't thought of that." So again, it's sort of your own particular stamp, but then you get sort of steered back in the right direction if things do go slightly astray or not quite the way that George was hoping. But it's also good to have that freedom to be able to do what you want to a certain extent, and then surprise the director.
But at the same
Hmm.
time, isn't that the economy of television? Sort of having to work, or not necessarily in sort of a narrow creative standpoint, but sort of make sure that everyone's on the same page from the jump. To know, like, this is where he's going to want to go, so let's go there, as opposed to trying things, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps that the scripts were so tight and so well written
Hmm.
that there wasn't an awful lot of let's restructure this. I mean, episode 6 for me, I don't know about you, Natalie, but that was the most challenging in the edit suite because it
Oh.
was tonally, it was all very different. You had comedic scenes and then these really hard hitting drama scenes.
Hmm.
So we played around with the end of it, and that I always work with kind of post-its on walls and write down all my scenes, and then think because
Oh, you're like a writer.
my brain needs to visually see it. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you pull stuff out and then put it back. But there were very few scenes that were cut in the whole of our block. I mean, I think that
Mm.
was the only scene that went. I mean, we obviously did trims and
Yeah.
lost dialogue, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm curious. I mean, I think it's probably more for you, Natalie, but I mean, there's a lot of weather in these
Yeah, there is.
blocks. And it probably, and I can imagine that it wasn't all natural. I can imagine you probably had to fake quite a bit of it. How
Oh,
does
yeah.
that kind of affect the job on your end, and also for you, Nigel, especially if you're getting sort of this wide array of environmental like sort of shots going on? I mean, I can imagine, from an editing standpoint, it's like, oh, the rain was going this way in one shot. No, now it's going this way in the other shot. How do I fix that?
I mean, my
VFX.
yeah, right, VFX. I mean, my always I feel I always remember this one thing, which is if people are noticing that the rain's going to the left and then to the right, then maybe there are deeper problems.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's yeah.
so for sure. So I always kind of rely on that as my safety net. But yes, there was a lot of weather. So Lisa wrote the show as a sort of love letter to Northern Ireland in a way, like that's where she's from and she wanted to honor that. And Northern Ireland has some incredible dramatic landscapes. And so we obviously wanted to take that through also to Malta, for Portugal and also the Dublin scenes too. So we were very fortunate, I think, that all the gods were smiling on us, that we never went from like bright sunshine to like torrential rain within the same scene. So from scene to scene, yeah, it's sunny this scene and it's rainy that scene because obviously we're shooting it on different days and we're shooting it out of order. But if you actually ever go to Ireland, Northern Ireland, you will see that that is literally what happens. So, it'll be sunny at 1 o'clock and absolutely pissing it down at 2 o'clock. So that's completely within the world of part of the love letter of Northern Ireland. But I sometimes did have to, especially for interiors. So, the interior where Saoirse Monica Jackson is sort of in the safe house, kitchen, diner sort of area. So we shot that in Belfast. So that was like a, a location that then had sort of set build within it, an extension within it. It was basically like a cave. So there was the entrance and then there was the window on the stairs, and that was all there was. And so I was then concerned about it would get flat, it wouldn't be enough lightings. We obviously had loads of scenes in there. And we had scouted in Malta first. So that was the very first thing I did in August. And then we were shooting that scene in, I want to say October or something, or November. So I had to figure out, because we were shooting the bedroom version of the safe house in Malta and then the kitchen diner in Belfast, I had to find a way to hope that Malta was going to be sunny and augment that. um, and make that choice. I just had to make that choice. And so I opted to go for like sort of hard sunlight coming through the window, and also collaborated with production design to make little window boxes. So there's like a insect catcher thing at the back, and then these sort of window boxes, they're all fake, so they're not real windows. But I just wanted to have that sort of points of light and depth to try to match the warm sunny look in Malta. And actually in Malta it wasn't that super sunny because it was November when we were shooting there. So we definitely had moments. So I then had to augment once I arrived to Malta to reflect that. So yeah, it was a logistical challenge, but I was very lucky to have an incredible gaffer, Adam Slater, who really had my back, I would say. So yeah, I mean that was my answer.
Weren't there days that you had to slightly reschedule though because the weather was so bad and you had to go in studio? Or I seem to remember Jules saying, "Oh, the weather's so bad here, we can't film."
There must have been, and honestly, it has slipped my memory like a goldfish. Probably the
Yeah.
traumatic stress of having to change last minute has made me immediately repress that memory.
While I'm
Um,
tucked up in a nice warm edit suite.
yeah, you're in your nice cozy suite with a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that happened. I'm sure that happened. But yeah, I mean, we filmed this in end of 2024, so yeah,
Well, I mean, that
it's
leads to my next question. Like, what was the breakdown of sort of on set versus, location? Because honestly, there's a lot of it that does look very sort of warm and very natural, like you're on location. But then at the same time, it's like the guy in me who has seen too many TV shows and movies are going, no, they just did a really good job of making that look like it was on location. Like, what was the breakdown of that?
So from my block, the only set builds were lighthouse interior
Okay,
and lighthouse exterior when the girls are sort of escaping
okay,
with
okay.
the rope. So we shot plates on set on location of the real lighthouse, and we had a drone flying around sort of taking a bunch of pictures and mapping it into this sort of 3D model so that they could then comp our on-set stuff onto the location stuff, so it looked like they were climbing out of the real lighthouse. So Lighthouse was set build. Obviously, all the murder code stuff was actually the murder code set is our set. So when you're walking through scaffolding and thing, that's the set into the lighthouse, which was upstairs. So we didn't want to reveal that it was the yellow lighthouse at the top of this scaffolding. So I framed that out. But that's the inside of Titanic Studios, which is where we built all our sets.
It felt very
Um,
meta. No, I love
yeah.
that.
So yeah, Murder Code, Lighthouse. What else was it? Oh, and there was a few driving plates that we did with like a sort of LED screen. Um, so there was a few interior driving plates, but a lot of the driving was done on location with a pod car or with low loaders, A-frames, that kind of thing. And most of it was shot on location because that's what Lisa, that's the love letter to Northern Night. Because then we could have shot it anywhere. You could have then done it in Pinewood, you could have done it wherever. So
Yeah.
we did want to look at the real locations.
Then
So I'd
I
say
get
probably 85% real.
And then I get Natalie's rushes of the lighthouse, and I
Mm,
do a very bad job of comping in green screen, them climbing out the lighthouse. But it's going to go off to VFX, but you've obviously got to try and make it work as best you can. So I think it was stock footage of the sky, and it's all
yeah.
very kind of. If you were to see it, you wouldn't be impressed, Natalie. But I think it
I
turned
wish
out okay once
George
VFX got
protected my
hold of it.
protected my mental health from
Yeah,
watching
thank
that.
goodness you didn't see that.
Well,
But
I
what
mean,
was
that
really
leads into my
lucky
next
about that
question, though.
lighthouse is that we
Oh,
we
yeah.
filmed the exterior first. Thank God. I insisted we film the exterior first because I then didn't want to do, like a sunny escape and then we get to the real thing and it's raining. So I wanted to match to the real thing. So we shot the all the exterior lighthouse first. So like once they've jumped down, and they pop back up in the frame, all of that and all the exteriors with the old man, all that we shot that first, and then we shot uh in the interiors and the what's it called, the VFX climbing out after.
Now, I mean, that does lead into a question, though, I'm dying to ask, because
Oh,
obviously it takes a village to make a show like this, so many different people working on so many different elements, but at the same time, you're all kind of working in your own bubbles.
yeah.
I can imagine, you would shoot something and then it would go to Nigel and be like, you're hoping the editor doesn't screw it up, and then Nigel's going, "Oh my God, I hope VFX makes this look okay." You're
Hmm.
you're operating sort of independent of each other. Does sort of having faith in your director and your showrunner, is that kind of what keeps you sane through the whole voyage of it all?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%. I mean, they so know what they're doing.
Yeah.
The Derry Girls team, and there was a lot of people that worked on Derry Girls that came over to this, and their track record is so immaculate. Michael Lennox, all the Brian Faulkner, the producer, and then you've got the execs who also did Derry Girls, did this, and Lisa overseeing it all and gluing it all together with this amazing script. So yeah, I mean, we'd have had to really have messed it up for this not to be good.
Yeah, I mean, and they've all got such a shorthand. It was my first time working with our director George, but we got on really well almost immediately, pretty much. Because the first time I met George was at the airport on day one at the airport, getting on a flight to Malta to scout Malta, which was the last thing we were going to be shooting. So we were all a bit, none of us had, well, at least I hadn't seen any of the rushes. I'd spoken to Ashley a little bit because I knew her from before, but she was also in the thick of shooting, so I didn't want to disturb her too much. But so we were scouting Malta, thinking we have to make it match, but we don't know what we're matching to. But we're going to try and find locations that maybe will match the tone that we think they're going for. And so you really have to trust each other at that point. And I had literally just come off a show on the Saturday night. I wrapped at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and then Monday at 6 a.m. or something, I was in this airport. So I'd only read the script sort of once in a bit of a rush. I was reading them again on the plane, being like, I need to get up to speed. And it all moved so fast. So having trust in the people above and also the people below, your whole team, you just have to. Like if you don't get on, if you don't trust each other,
Right,
you're
right.
pretty screwed, I think. Something like
And the
this.
Malta episode, as Natalie said, was the last one to be shot, but that was our episode 4.
Yeah,
So it's weird that you're cutting episodes 5 and 6 with this big hole in the whole jigsaw
yeah,
of episode 4. And
yeah.
then I think it was November time where we got all the jigsaw pieces, and that's where it all goes.
Yeah, and because we had to scout it first, we were scouting that in August at some point while Block One had started shooting. So in an ideal world, I would have had the gaffer and the grip and a bunch of people with me on the scout so that we could sort of plan things out already and put things into place. But they weren't there. I hadn't met them yet, so I was taking all these pictures, thinking, I hope this helps when I explain to the gaffer what I'm trying to do. So yeah, we kind of just had to make it work. We had the VFX team there because we had to sort of figure out how to do the yacht explosion. But
Right.
Jurassic World was shooting in the open air tank where we were then going to do the post yacht banana boat thing.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we couldn't really get on to the set and we couldn't take pictures or anything. We kind of had to like poke our head out the car and go, okay, I get a sense of it, and then come away with some floor plans. But our Malta team were amazing at facilitating all of that. I don't know what we would have done without them.
Well, I mean, obviously, Natalie, Nigel, I mean, this is such a fun show, and I mean, I think it's rare that I've seen something that manages to match every tone it's trying to give the audience, and just sort of the ride that it creates. But I mean, it's so great. I mean, just congrats on the work, and again, thank you for the insight on just what it takes to put something like this together. Just keep up the good work.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I'm
Glad you
so
liked it.
Yeah,
yeah,
you're very
so
welcome.
proud
All
of it
right.
because I found out yesterday it's #1 in at least in the UK, and it's only been released for like 3 or 4 days.
Oh,
So
Mm.
fantastic. Well, I'm in Canada. I don't think you've made top 10 here yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
okay. Oh, it will.
Oh, tell
David,
your
if you just
friends
keep watching
quickly.
it, just refresh.
Absolutely.
Keep watching
I'll
it.
have it on repeat. Absolutely.
Yes, do that. Do that. Do that. Perfect.
All right, Natalie, Nigel, thanks again for the time. I appreciate this.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank
Speak soon.
you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.